The black and brown stripes on the progressive pride flag, and I invite you to look at the pride flag on the cover of your program, were introduced in Philadelphia in 2017 by Daniel Quasar, who specifically wanted to recognize LGBTQ people of color who have historically faced discrimination and exclusion even within queer spaces, as well as uplifting the trans community. So the black stripe also represents those who have died or are living with AIDS. The chevron shape of the added stripes was intentional, symbolizing the need for forward movement and continued progress in achieving full inclusion. And some flags also include the yellow triangle with the purple circle, which is the flag for the intersex folks. This is our last Sunday in Pride, and that doesn't mean we can't talk about Pride beyond this, right? But I want to focus this morning on Pride's fight for the rights of all, including people of color, with the understanding that as white people, most of us in the room fall in that category. If we don't do our own work, then we become the work of other people. So let's set the stage theologically. Galatians 3:28 is the premier verse for our undermining of the binaries that exist. It seems like the Galatians were struggling with at least one issue, maybe a binary, faith or law. And a good Jew knew that there were 613 mitzvot that they must follow, laws that they had to follow. So what to do about this when Jesus comes along? Do we have to introduce all these Gentile people to the 613 mitzvah? Paul says no. In Christ, there is no Jew or Gentile. And furthermore, for those other exclusionary ways of being, there is no slave or free. There is no female or male. So let's be convinced there is no gay or straight. There is no white or black. And yet, just because God wants us to treat everyone as equals and doesn't see color in the way God treats us, doesn't mean that we should not see color, right? There are still people who are excluded from certain neighborhoods by realtors and by neighborhoods. There are still people, someone else wants to touch, can I touch your hair? There are still people with skin tones right now, our neighbors down the road, who have to be afraid when ice appears. There are still indigenous women who disappear at alarming rates higher than white women. There are still Asian children who are bullied by their classmates. We have to see color if we're going to understand the issues in our world today so that we can stand up for justice. So what does it mean for those of us who are white to be good allies or accomplices? I like that word. What unwritten rules about how things go do we have to break in order for there to be justice? So Stan, take a nap for a minute if you want to. This is about us doing our work.
I'll let you do all the work you need to do.
Thank you. My focus this morning is on what we can do, and there are a million things. I'm only going to name a couple 100,000. just exaggerating numbers this morning, okay? It's up to you to choose one of these things or to work on something that comes up while we're talking about it that you're maybe already working on it and just pick up the pace a little bit. These are cultural behaviors that perpetuate white supremacy culture, and you can find them because you're white and you value the written word. You can find them on Tima Okun's website, White Supremacy Culture, if you want to see them written. This list was intended as an internal map for assessing one's own behavior, considering the ways we habitually perpetuate white supremacy culture. So the first one, the number one strategy, is to stay afraid. Can anyone relate to that today? They want to keep us afraid so that we can't get focused, so that we stay off kilter, so that we can't access our power, so that we can't do things to address the wrongs. The antidote for this? Breathe. Name it. Sit with it. The fear's not going to kill us. We just have to be okay with it. And then create belonging. Because when we're together, the fear lessens, right? So that's number one. Number two, perfectionism, one right way, paternalism, objectivity. You hear it, right? It's that I know, and you probably don't. Although the antidote is to develop a culture of appreciation. Well, maybe you do know. I appreciate that you shared that. I wonder what it means that we think differently about that. So honoring the questions, creating a learning organization, believing that all approaches yield unintended consequences. All points of view are subjective. We say this in seminary, right? Every word is a translation. The Bible is a translation. It's all interpretation. The third character is qualified. You know this. You have to be degreed and credentialed and educated and classical and Christian. Right? Just look at the news about the mayoral race in New York City, if you wonder if this is true. The antidote is to catch ourselves at making assumptions, to prioritize relationships over what's right or wrong. This is something we might even have to do in our families, right? The relationship is what's important. Whether they're wrong or not doesn't matter. Oh, that was a joke. Usually I'm the one who's wrong in my family. Number 4, a sense of urgency. Emphasizing speed and immediate results at the cost of thoughtful reflection or long-term solutions. And I want to point us back to Martin Luther King's quote that Sue read for us. There is the fierce urgency of now. King is saying, keep the pedal to the metal. Keep moving forward. The pride flag points us forward. We shall overcome. But the movement isn't urgent at the expense of the relationships or at the expense of considering the unintended consequences or other people's feelings or creating worse problems. The antidote is long-term change. So being in it for the long haul. Number 5, quantity over quality. Progress is better More is bigger. You hear it, right? It's our economic system. We have to keep growing, building. It's all about numbers. The antidote is to measure things that, or pay attention to things that can't be measured. What about the costs of doing this? What about the relationships involved? What about whether people understand themselves to be appreciated and respected? Number 6, worship of the written word. There it is. Go find the website, White Supremacy Culture. You can read all about it. This character is white people's need to elevate written documents as the authoritative form, right? So what are the other ways of remembering? What are the other ways of knowing? This doesn't mean you shouldn't take good notes in a meeting, right? It does mean that there are other ways of knowing. Some of you know this, you're artists. Some of you know this, you're musicians. There are other ways of knowing. In our bodies, we know. How many of us are in touch with our bodies when we're feeling something, what the feeling is and where it's located? Storytelling, another way of knowing. These are all antidotes. Seeking to practice knowing in other ways. Number 7, either or binary thinking. Simplifying complex issues into binary categories, ignoring nuance. The antidote is obvious. Complicate the narrative. Next time you're in that conversation with somebody and there doesn't seems like you're going to have to stay right here, ask a question. I wonder what so-and-so might think about this. I wonder what we're missing when we say these things to each other. I wonder what else the answer could be or the solution could be. Complicate the narrative. Number 8, power hoarding. Fear of open conflict, right to comfort. This is preserving the psychological comfort of those with power and scapegoating those who cause discomfort. It's avoiding difficult conversations and using nice as an excuse to sidestep conflict. The antidote? Recognizing that discomfort is at the root of all growth. Welcome it. Don't take things personally. It usually isn't about you. Become proficient at dealing with conflict. Do you have strategies when you feel that? Can you stop and take a deep breath? Can you say, hang on a minute, it's going too fast. I need you to slow down so I can listen carefully. Number 9, individualism. I'm the only one. In the white culture, we believe that we are not represented by the group, especially when there's a name cast on the group that we think doesn't reflect us. And yet, when a black person is abused by police, well, you know they're all criminals, right? We can lump other cultures, other races all together, but not ourselves as a white race. And so this is the antidote, to start understanding ourselves as a racialized people. We are white when you're talking about racism, and that means something. When have you ever had to wonder if you were going to get a job because of your skin color? That's what it means to be white. And think about when was the first time you knew that. So I knew that when a black family moved in the neighborhood, and I was sitting with my girlfriend next door, and she said, my dad says we have to plant a whole bunch of trees in our backyard. I said, Why? Your backyard's great. We can play football in it. She said, because the black people are moving in. And I thought, wow, what? Something wrong with this picture. When was the first time you realized? And that's the antidote to understand our whiteness. 10, this is the last one. Defensiveness and denial. Just what it says. Defending the way things are and denying there is a problem. The antidote is listening and assuming that the naming of racism is a real thing. And acknowledging the power of intersectionality. So I invite you to choose one thing to work on. In any way that we function better, we create a world with less white power in the white supremacy culture. Robin DiAngelo, why it's so hard to talk to white people about race, which I believe you've studied together as a group. Maybe that, yes. He makes these points. We must recognize that these are difficult things because they are the air we breathe and the water we swim in. We are mostly segregated. We live with the binary that racism is done by mean people, and we're not mean people, so we can't be racist. And we might not be, but we need to work at all levels. So even if we're not racist, we live and work in organizations that have racist principles. We live in a culture, in society that functions racially. So we need to work at all levels and get over our racial arrogance and recognize ourselves as white. We need to think and work collectively. We save and are saved by each other. I see Christ in you, and you see Christ in me. None of us are free until we're all free. The Aboriginal activist sister said, if you come to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. So here's an example. The Disabled American Disability Network, got it? Fought for curb cuts, right? Did that just benefit them? No. Moms with strollers, skateboarders, roller skaters, bicyclists, yes, right? So when we fight for the well-being of the least, last, lost, and lonely, the ones who are marginalized and pushed to the edges, we're fighting for ourselves. In the movie The Help, Jessica Chastain negotiated her pay with Octavia Spencer. Octavia Spencer received 5 times what they offered her because of Jessica Chastain's advocacy. I'm up to about 200,000 examples, so I'll end here. Take a look through this week at the ways that you see racism, now that you've been alerted to it, now that you're a little more sensitive. Watch the news, look at ads, see how people treat each other, and whenever you can, stop it. Say, hey, wait a minute, I wonder about that. And you don't have to be mean about it, right? Because we're not racist. You just have to say, this isn't the way I want my world to work. I want us to treat each other fairly, equally, respectfully, with dignity. Ann Braden said, a white activist said, we must become involved in the fight against racism. We must become involved in the fight against racism as if our lives depend on it. Because in truth, they do.